I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us?
Hello, friends, and welcome back to the show. Got a good one in store for you. My guest today is an author, researcher, vlogger, and YouTuber. He is Dream Poet, aka Chet Guthrie. We're happy to have him here. Chet, welcome to the show.
Glad that you're having me, Tim.
Yeah, absolutely. And honorable mention, shout out to Bart for setting this up, essentially, getting me more acquainted with your stuff. It's funny because I had seen some of your videos before, but he sent me some other videos and was like, maybe you should talk to this guy. And I agree. So that's how it all started. And I'm happy to have you here, man. And do we want to jump into the story that you were just telling me, or would you like to put out some things about yourself real quick?
Well, well, to save that, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I have been on YouTube for about the last 6 years. I was a part of another YouTube channel back in it was like 2016 to 2018, and that was Adventures United. But I broke away and started doing my own thing. But I start like to really give you an idea of how I started my channel. If you go back to the early days, after I graduated from the University of Tennessee, I was at a low. I didn't know where I was going to go. I kept on filling out application after application, wasn't getting anywhere, and I made the decision. It was a harebrained, I guess you could say it was a harebrained scheme, but at the same time, it's one of those things that I just went out on a limb and I saved up my money. I bought a sailboat and I've lived in Florida for 3 years. And that's how I started my channel. Some other things, as you mentioned, Tim, I am an author. Actually, I released my first book last year, Ghosts and Mysteries of Bradley County, Tennessee. And this is a series that I will be working on in the future. But I also have Ghosts and Mysteries of the Southern Cherokee National Forest and my newest book, Ghosts and Mysteries of St. Augustine, Florida. And that one's a bit of my love letter to one of the most haunted cities in America, because I grew up going there and I actually gave ghost tours when I lived in near the old city. I lived in
Wow.
Jacksonville, about half hour north.
So I
But
didn't know any of that coming into this show. This is news to me. I've seen 10 of your videos online pertaining to history and like old Tennessee history, but not like supernatural stuff. So that's very interesting.
yeah, and the thing is, it's like this was probably a what do you call it? An air quote or a summarized quote from a friend of mine, but it's like one of the things that, if you talk about ghosts, the paranormal, some people will look at you like you're crazy, but it's like but it's like it clicks when you meet people who have experienced the same things. And as we were talking about, speaking of paranormal stuff and whatnot, this happened when I was an automotive technician at NTB Automotive here in Cleveland, Tennessee. But what had happened, it was my first day on the job, and I believe his name was Casey. He was like, "Yeah, man, we don't go back into the tire room after 6 p.m. Weird stuff happens when we go in there. We don't like being in there alone." And I was just like, "Well, isn't that the strangest thing?" I figured at the time maybe it was one of these things where these guys just, it's just a weird feeling that they get, or maybe something else is going on, or maybe one of these compression, air compression machines goes haywire. But they found out I was an investigator, paranormal investigator, on and off for the last few years. So I told them, and they were like, "Well, hey, Chet, can you stay past hours and see what we can find?" So around 8 o'clock, everything shuts down. We shut off most of the power to the back room because there's this huge generator, and that can cause some conflict with the electrical devices that I have on hand. Well, like, no joke, I go in with my K2 meter. I am standing about maybe 10 feet away from this electric box. It should not be affecting it, but my K2 shoots all the way into the red and it stays in the red. I walk around in that area one full circle. I come back to that area. It like it's not doing it. It just goes back to just dull green first level. And when we started it, as I was getting the guys, my former coworkers, like it sounded as somebody like just took a whole handful of nuts and bolts and just threw it across the like the bottom of the tire room, and you could hear it. And
Mhm.
I just thought that was the weirdest thing. But it was me, and I want to say his name was Dakota. We were walking the back room, waiting for more of the guys to show up. But we hear a tire like as if it's being pulled out like from its wall, and it hits the floor. And initially, I mean, I feel like it's my friend or coworker at the former coworker at this time. I figured it was just him messing with me, but I turn around and he's like, "Did you see that?" And I mean, he had the biggest look of terror on his face. Now, to this day, I still feel like maybe it was him that did it, but I don't know.
Well,
Just the look.
if your meter was activated, essentially, I mean, there's probably something there.
Yep. And here's the weird part. It's like I saw this with my own two eyes. I cannot recreate it, but we were in the back room. All the lights were shut off. I had my lights, but we watched as two tires pulled themselves out and fell onto the floor.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, it's like when I say that, when you do paranormal investigating, you have to like think, how can I disprove this in every way possible? Well, here's the thing, there is no way to recreate what we saw. It's like if you wanted to, you would like, okay, how those tires are stored together. Imagine two big metal railings followed by rubber that's just pushed in there and it's wedged in there. Like you have to physically pull it out to get them out.
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
these things just came right out. Like,
Yeah.
and I mean, and
That's
here's the thing.
I mean,
It's like,
that sounds paranormal to me, for sure.
and but to go back to what, there was a house and a farm on that property back in like the 1920s. The farm did eventually get sold in the early 2000s, but I almost wonder if it has to deal with something on the land. But
Oh, I see. I think that that's the case oftentimes. I really do. Just haunted lands in general. And over here, I mean, that kind of gets into our history, the North American history that I believe is largely unknown. There have been people living on this land for a very long time, and I think there was a lot of shamanic activity going on.
yep,
And it's almost as if you look into places like Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and others, even Serpent Mound up in Ohio, where we know that there was shamanic activity there. Those places tend to hold that energy. It's
yep,
like infused into the earth itself.
mm-hmm,
And it's like I lived, and people know this, so I won't go super into it. But when I was in middle school, I lived in a house that was, for lack of a better term, haunted. We were getting experiencing a lot of poltergeist activity, and I saw things too. It's, I when you say you saw tires pulling themselves. I know what that feels like to see something
yep,
like that. So, but in recent times, and I was not able to get anywhere with this, but I was really, really trying to find the history of that land that house was on, because I was just like, man, there's got to be a burial mound or something here. But I just wasn't able to find it though. But I'm with you. I think it's like some of this stuff is infused into the earth itself. It seems.
yep. That brings me to something that was actually that you all might find this very interesting, but here in Bradley County, where I'm from, Cleveland, back in the 1970s, Ed and Lorraine Warren, this was before the Warrens ever became famous. This was before The Conjuring. This was when, ghost hunting was very niche. Like nobody really knew about it. People knew about ghosts, but
Hmm.
there was that superstition not to mess with it. But Ed and Lorraine Warren, they gave a lecture at Cleveland State Community College. And after everything was said and done, Ed and Lorraine, they were packing up. You had Melissa Heiberger and her family, Frank Heiberger, and I forget what Melissa's mother's name was, but this was a family at their wits' end. Like this house that they lived in, there was a portal on it. They had stuff like for I think well I'll get into that in a
That's
minute, but
interesting.
what I find so striking about this story that my friend told me is that they were really trying to get Ed and Lorraine to come back to their house to see what the heck was going on. And the most striking thing that was quoted, and this came from Lorraine Warren. She says, "Oh, honey, I don't have to go with you. I can feel it here. The land is cursed." I
Two.
mean, so if you have a clairvoyant like to the level of Lorraine Warren saying that there is something on the land in or at a small town, East Tennessee, what does that say about the rest of that area?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
what
it's a
exact?
good point about bringing the clairvoyance out. I've seen that in some of the research I've done. I was looking into this treasure out in Utah. Well, it's rumored treasure. But what they were doing was they would bring the clairvoyants out there and let them spend time on the land. And the clairvoyants were like, well, we'll tell you what's happening here. We've got messages now. We know it's like what the situation is. And it was that apparently really is Aztec treasure out there that was
Yep.
brought up out of Central America by the Aztec chief, who I'm blanking on his name right now. But they were like, yeah, this when they put the treasure in the ground here, it's under Three Lakes, I believe is the name of the area.
Really?
They sealed it with a curse, and
Hmm.
we've talked to some sort of a medicine man on the other side who told us, yeah, this there's a curse on the treasure. As long as you're not here looking for the treasure, you'll be fine.
Hmm.
Similar.
I mean, it makes me you saying that it makes me think about, or at least with this area. You had Chief Dragon Canoe. He was a very prolific Cherokee warrior here in the East Tennessee area. But one of the things that he said about this area was that the land was cursed, but the Cherokee, as he said, did not put a curse on it. In fact, it was there before them, and the Cherokee, they really didn't come into the East Tennessee area till like around like mid 1700s, like 1730s.
Hmm.
That's when they came to New Echota. But
Yeah, they came down from the Great Lakes region
yep,
loosely because I know they've got Iroquois, um, essentially DNA. But yeah, they said when they got here that and I was just reading about this the other day, that there was a group art that was living here when they arrived called the Anakatani.
yep, yep. Cherokee. It was a priesthood, and there was an uprising in that, I want to say, 300 years before Europeans came around to this area. But how they described those men is gosh, I can't quite remember, but it's like they had not really so much a skin complexion, but they were very spiritual people. And if you actually look at what they were
Sorcerers
doing,
is
yeah,
what the Cherokee called them.
yep, sorcerers. And it's like, are they are they proof that that Egyptians had made it to the New World before Columbus or the Romans or
Hmm.
anyone. That's one of the
I
things that I find so fascinating about it.
Yeah, I think so, and I've touched on this here and there on this podcast where I think there were ancient groups of people coming over here before Columbus. It's what I like to call the other BC,
Yep.
before Columbus. Some of whom definitely settled in Tennessee, according to my research. And just for people listening, I've derived this from documentation in old books. Like this is all coming from stuff I've read. It's not just a crazy theory. I had no idea any of this was going on until I looked into it. But we talked about this on here before where there were a lot of different people coming over here. And even Plutarch in 70 AD in his writings, he talking about how the Greeks knew about the St. Lawrence River. They knew you could come down and get to the Great Lakes. Um, Phoenician purple found in Tennessee. That's
Yep.
something I've covered recently. You got that 3,000-year-old Canaanite shipwreck I've talked about. That just to me, that overall shows that these people were sailing that long ago. The Egyptian temple
Yep.
or so-called Egyptian temple here. And it's interesting, man. Like Tennessee, there was a researcher who suggested that it was an Egyptian word. Tena means of the land. A sea means Isis, land of Isis.
Yep.
It's a crazy interpretation for the name Tennessee. So, yeah, I'm with you, man. I love talking about this sort of thing. I really do. And one of the accounts that I read about the Anokatani, though, that the Cherokee directly recorded having interactions with, is that they had this ongoing
Yep.
war or battle with them, and a plague hit the Anokatani, and
Yep.
the Cherokee saw that as their time to strike. So they moved in on them when they were at their weakest, and that's how they finally got them off the land, essentially. But yeah, they were such such shamans that the the Cherokees just took the word Onakatani and just started using it for as a word for sorcery.
Yep.
Wild.
Speaking about other empires coming to the New World, have you seen the Roman artifacts that they found in Georgia?
I've talk about that a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, I found this out in a book called Weird Georgia. It's one of my all-time favorite series, but I believe they were working on a street. This is near, gosh, what is it? It sits on the Alabama Georgia line. It's not far from where. Okay, to sum it up, it's where the original creator of Coke lived, and I can't
Okay.
quite remember the name of that city that was in Georgia, but to make a long story short, I think it was around the 80s they were working on a road and they found Roman coins. Roman coins beneath the earth. And another thing that they had also found is they had also found a horse statue, like a little
Mm,
horse statue. And
okay.
this was like way before this was before horses were in or had come back to America because there was a time when
Hmm.
they were extinct, but Europeans brought them back. And anyway, that is in one of their museums. Like I said, I wish I could remember the name of that town. I did a video
Yeah.
on it.
I'm looking right now because I made notes about this blog I came across. It's called The Americas Revealed. And in this, it's Richard L. Thornton. He was an architect and a city planner, and he got really interested in this ancient America stuff. But he goes through in this blog and talks about how he believes in Georgia that there were, let me make sure I get this right. I think it's Aztecs or Mayans.
I've heard that.
Fascinating stuff. Mayan. It's Mayan.
Yep.
Uh, totally aware. Yeah. I mean, and that's a lot of this is underneath. Some of this is underneath a lake right now, like a man-made artificial lake, which is something I've talked about a lot on here. I've got a whole list of dams that created artificial lakes that now have or
Yep.
have ancient sites beneath them. That's why I saved the information on that. But I just think it's interesting that the Georgians or that the Mayans were possibly over here that long ago, or just here in general. Like they had to have been seafaring, I think. I mean, sure they
Yep.
could have crossed up through Mexico, but
Yeah.
I think that ancient man knew how to sail. That's my personal opinion on that.
I mean, if I mean, if you think about like some of these ships, especially with the ancient Egyptians, I mean, these ships were large.
Mm.
Who's to say that? A second, I'm trying to find. Like I said, because this is really bothering me because I did a video on it. And there is a that's okay. There is a major stuff. There is a major occurrence or incident that happened in the. Let me see the Metcalf Stone. That and what the Metcalf Stone was is it what happened on the army base where that town was. And like I said, here it'll tell me, but anyway, it was said to have a inscription, but on the army base in that particular city of Georgia, it's like you had well, okay, last man, how it got the name Metcalf. The last man's name was Metcalf. He was a soldier, and he was making himself a fire, and he was on the military base not far from it. He was taking millstones from an old abandoned mill, and he was making a fire out of it. Well, he found these mysterious etchings, these I won't say so much hieroglyphs, and he just found that to be the strangest thing. And then, like I said, I'm trying to
Yeah, it's on the Florida Georgia line though. Is that the town you're looking for?
let me
Metcalf
see
Metcalf Stone?
Metcalf Stone.
Well, while you're doing that, I would like to ask you, since we're on this topic of ancient peoples coming over here, what do you think about the Melungians?
Now that okay, I have heard the stories because it's like they tested the DNA of these malignans or however you pronounce. One second, however you pronounce their name, but it's
Sure.
like they did DNA studies, and it's like they're neither Native American, they're not white, and they're not black. It's just this mysterious. I won't say so much mysterious. It's just this really weird race of people. And
Mm-hmm.
you have like probably one of the most well known, or at least the most well known stories here in the Appalachians was Mahala Mahala Mullins. I think anyway, she was a her husband he was an invalid. She was a very heavy woman, but she made moonshine in the area. And it's like Mahala Mullins, that's what her name was. Mahala Mullins, it's like no matter how hard the cops would try to get her, she she weighed so much she would break she'd break the horse and buggy. Let me see. But as you were saying about the malignant or what anyway, how you
Yeah,
pronounce
I
it.
may have said it wrong, by the way. I've always thought it was Melungians, so that's kind of how I say it. I could be wrong on that.
Like I said, this is going to bother me so much. Because, like I said, I mean, there is just so much on this town that was found. Columbus, that's what it was. Columbus, Georgia.
Okay.
So, anyway, the Metcalf Stone was found on a military base not far from Columbus, Georgia. Second, just to give you who discovered. Like I said, another one that you may want to look up is the Redbird pet or the Redbird pit the Redbird petroglyph or red anyway it's in Kentucky,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a big stone that originated it was on a big it was in a cliffside. Anyway, somewhere around the 90s, I believe it's the 90s, early 2000s, it collapsed and it fell onto the road. But this city in Kentucky, they took it. But what is so interesting about this stone is it has all these different hieroglyphs or all these different languages on it. You had Celtic runes, you had Egyptian, or you had Roman, you had Egyptian writing, even Jewish. But that one is up for debate. Um,
Yeah, I've heard about that, but I appreciate you bringing it back into my attention because that's interesting. I think what we're talking about here is a general area of the country that has a lot of ancient
yep,
stuff. Whether we're talking about from Ohio or the Great Lakes, even down through Ohio, through Kentucky, Tennessee, where we are, down into Georgia.
yep,
Just so many And it wasn't just one group of people, I'm coming to find out. I think there were many groups of people that were coming over here before Columbus. And I wanted to pull this out because I got the book right here. I've got to show you this. This because I haven't talked about the Melungeons on here at all. And this is another example of people possibly coming over here before Columbus. What you have here is in 17, technically, I think it started in 1715. The Moors invaded Iberia.
Yep.
Spain is France. And it was like a Muslim invasion coming up out of North Africa. The Some of the Portuguese people got together and decided they were just going to leave completely. They were going to get on ships and leave the land, the continent. And I got an account of this here. It says this is a bishop in Portugal, the Archbishop of Porto Cal, together with 6 other bishops, resolved to go. Thousands of their faithful followed. The expedition left in 734, accompanied by more than 5,000 followers. The chronicle relates that the fleet arrived safely, and thereafter, many others prepared to follow. They all migrated to the large island of Antilia. Now, if you look into Antilia, that was essentially North America. They thought at the one point that it was an island because they hadn't explored the whole continent. They thought maybe there wasn't much beyond the Mississippi, I think. So they marked it as an island. So they had the whole um, east coast of America down to Florida. They cut it off top with the St. Lawrence River and then had the Mississippi going up. So they blocked it off into what they thought was an island. Well, that's Antilia. And they had 5,000 people that came over here. Now, what's interesting is that they consider themselves to be Christian, and they were obviously Portuguese. And to this very day, the Melungeons in Tennessee claim to be Portugal and Christian. That they say that about their heritage.
That is fascinating.
Yeah.
That
You
one,
ever
I didn't hear about. That is fascinating.
I know I tripped over this. I got shocked out of my seat almost when I found this. So, and I want to do more on them now because I'd always heard about it. I've seen pictures of them. You know, they definitely have darker skin. Um, it's like you said, they're just a very mysterious people.
Yep.
But if we were to, but I think what's the problem is that everybody or a lot of the people trying to figure out who that they are not listening to what they're saying. They're not accepting that they were Christian Portuguese people. Why
Yep.
don't we just go with that? I mean, that's what they say. you know.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh, and to clarify real quick, um, the name that I could not remember, his name was second. Hold on, my phone is being a potato. Oh, Manfred Metcalf. If anyone on your podcast wants to look it up, but he discovered the Metcalf stone in 1966, and it was near his home in Chattahoochee County, Georgia, which that's not far from Columbus. But
Mhm.
anyway,
Oh, you
the
know
more
what?
you know.
There's another thing I might now that I have this book out, I might show you. I think it might be pertinent. Let's see. This is to do with about DeSoto coming over here,
Yep.
um, coming into Tennessee even. And I just thought that this was interesting. DeSoto camped at towns situated on islands in the middle of the Tennessee River, both above and below Chattanooga. For people listening, that's where Chet is. You're
Yep.
above Chattanooga, right?
Yep. Cleveland, Tennessee is only 20 minutes northeast of Chattanooga. So I mean, we're
Awesome. So
both counties are.
he was right there where you're at. Here he found town after town and province after province bearing names. He found tribe after tribe cultivating the land. Here were buildings and temples decorated with intricate carvings inlaid with pearls. So when DeSoto came over here, there were buildings, cities, and temples. And I had to bring that up because very fascinated with where you're at and that this history that's beneath your feet out there, man. I mean, Cleveland, Tennessee, let's go. I didn't know much about it at all, but I'm very fascinated with it.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like Cleveland, Tennessee, really what we're mostly known for is Lee University. And it's like, that's really about it. But for like in terms of ghost stories, you have the alleged bleeding mausoleum of the Craig Mile family. Not far from Cleveland, in Charleston, you've got the story of the Charleston monk. Um, that's my thing. It's like when I look at my hometown developing, it's like there is a lot of missed opportunity to really put ourselves on the map. But going back to Chattanooga and DeSoto, have you heard about Moccasin Bend or
No.
the Moccasin Bend area of Chattanooga? Well, that's one of the spots where DeSoto saw these Mississippian people. Like there's records of it. But Moccasin Bend, the inhabitation of it goes all the way back about 13,000 years. In fact, there is a mound. Let's see, I believe that would be the Woodland period. That's when they started building mounds for burial ceremonies.
Mm-hmm.
But they have one, and you can kind of see because it's like everything is flat land there, but you can see like the moment it starts like rising like a hill. Um,
Are you talking about Chattanooga?
yeah, I mean
Yeah,
Moccasin Bend is like
I've been.
right
I've been.
that. Okay, so
I've been to Chattanooga, but I didn't know about the Moccasin Bend.
I mean, yeah, I mean Moccasin Bend. It's like that's another thing. It's like Chattanooga calls itself the national park city or a
Mm.
national park city, and it's like, why aren't you like digging like deeper? Why don't you put your bureaucracies and red tape aside
Mm.
and just do it? But
My experience, I've been to Chattanooga several times. I really enjoyed it. It's one of those places where you can feel the history.
yep,
You just know that you're in a very old place. And I remember I've been on either side of the river there in Chattanooga, and I remember thinking, wow, this river is cut deep into the earth. Like these river walls are so high. It's
yep,
almost like you're up on a little hill in Chattanooga. And then I remember at one point I was out there parking my car or something, and I was up on a nice little uh hilly part, and I could see it. And I was looking around in every direction. I saw mountains surrounding me in every direction, it felt like. I was like, wow, this is like a perfect little mountain nook.
yep. And speaking, not to cut you off or
No,
anything,
you're good.
but I mean that's why Chattanooga was so important during the Civil War is because
Mm,
it was a natural fortress. But the general at the time, who I guess he would have been Confederate, like I said, I think his last name was Hooker. I think it was General Hooker. I may be wrong on that, but they decided to pull out things in Chattanooga. I believe as the story went. And but it's like if they hadn't have done that, the Civil War would have gone on way longer because it was in just that really weird spot. You've got the Tennessee River, you've got mountains, and the battle above the clouds, that was the whole issue because, like I said, I believe it was the Confederate soldiers, they were firing down
yep.
on Union men that were trying to go up the hill. And I mean, it was just like cannonballs just smashing, just falling down, down the hill.
Yeah, they were holding the high place.
Yep.
And I've looked into this, it's been a while. Is that the also connected to that point where you can look out and
Yeah.
see?
Point Park.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
see like all the corners of the states.
Oh no, no, that'd be Rock City.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
But is there a place like that out there
oh
where you're
yeah,
talking
Point
about?
Point Park is
Okay.
Point Park. It's a national battle. Yeah, I believe it would be a national battlefield.
Yeah, where
But
they had that, yeah, they held that
I
mountaintop
mean,
for a while.
yep. And it's kind of interesting. The National Cemetery that's down there, that's where Grant had, or General Grant had all his vantage points. I don't think that's something people realize either. But
Mm, yeah. So I've got a little list here of things, just little notes that I've taken so far in the conversation, because I have some things that I really want to come back to because they're interesting. But I definitely want to get into something with you today because I saw a video you did on this. And I think I haven't talked about this yet on the show. It's something I've been looking into. I think it has the potential sort of to change the way we see the past. And I appreciate that you're one of the very few people who I guess know about this, but certainly who have done a
yep,
YouTube video on this. And that's, one of East Tennessee's greatest mysteries, in my opinion. Large, ancient, prehistoric
yep,
wall. You knew where I
yep,
was going with this, didn't you?
yep.
Yeah.
Chatata. Well, there's different pronunciations of Chatata. Chatata, Chatata. If you're from Bradley County, I mean, sometimes they'll beat you over the head because sometimes they say it or as shady or shade like Shady
Mm,
Valley Road.
okay.
I mean, it's just like, but if you actually look at the word Chatata, Chatata, at first when I was talking with your friend Bart, I thought it meant fish town in Cherokee, but let me
It means clear water in
Clearwater,
yeah.
that's what it was. But anyway, during the days of the Cherokee Nation, that's where that town was. But going back to the Chatata Wall, it goes all the way back to I want to say like the late 1800s. Isaac Cooper, a what? Oh,
Yes, I was getting ready to say, yeah, it's I have it right here. You're dead on. It's 1890 and it's I got the note right here. Isaac Hooper or J.H. Hooper. I guess he went by either. Or he was out on his farm. He comes across a strange looking rock that he thinks might be a headstone. You correct me at any point here. They find out that it's more than a headstone, and that it's eventually they come to find out that it's 1,000-foot wall with ancient writings on it.
yep,
So they
um,
begin an excavation.
yep. And that actually during the 1890s, that put Bradley County and Cleveland, Tennessee on the map. Like you had archaeologists from as far as Japan and I want to even say New Zealand were
Mhm.
coming to this spot to figure out what this wall was. And to backtrack a little bit, when Isaac Cooper discovered it, like when they dug it down, it was about 3 feet. It was about three, I want to say about 3 feet wide, the 3 ply high of law or of blocks, about 3 feet high when they dug it down. But during that time, there was one gentleman from that party that was doing the investigating or the discovery of the or looking into this historic artifact. His name was A.L. Rawson,
Mhm.
and he had the stones transcribed, and they believed them to be Paleo Hebrew. You know,
Yes.
that was proof, or what they believed to be proof of Israel being in America. And if you look at some of the things that were said in the past, the Cherokee, they claim that they were one of the lost tribes of Israel. Or, that was many moons ago and many years ago. But it's like if you look at
There's a Semitic connection there for sure.
yep,
That's how I'm choosing to phrase it right now. Um, was it the lost tribes? Maybe. I'm not, but for sure there's that Semitic Hebrew connection there. And also some of the stuff could pass as Phoenician as well, certain characters, but that doesn't mean that they were not Hebrews. I'm still on the fence about that. But yeah, you you're on point, man. I've got a note here about this. So just to give people the backstory, the full backstory here, like Chet said, Isaac Cooper finds it, word spreads, all these people come from all over the world. They get a professor from New York City named Rawson that you're talking about. He gets
yep,
involved. He takes interest in the site and he funds an excavation there, and that's where they really dug in. He said that he was recognizing parts of Deuteronomy even on some of
Yep.
this stuff. And I've got a part here because I went back and looked at some of his writings. Um, I wanted to know more about him because he's sort of on a lot of things I've seen on modern sites. They sort of try to label him as a kook, seems
Yeah.
like. So I'm like, well, let me find out if there's anything to that. He turns out he was a well-respected guy, and he was
Yep.
an illustrator. He could draw, he could write, he was articulate. So he wrote, and this is a portion of a chapter he wrote called "The Ancient Inscription at Chatata" by A.L. Rawson. A cousin of Mr. Hooper carried me 13 miles from Cleveland to Chatata, where Mr. J.H. Hooper found the wall on his farm. We arrived late at his house and were entertained all night. After supper, the stones were mentioned, and one they had at the house was shown to me, and I transcribed the marks. So there it is in his own words, and that's rather straightforward. It sounds to me like he just knew Hebrew and had no problems reading it right there in those people's living room or dining room, what have you.
Yep.
And all these translations that he brought forth have been lost, air quotes lost, but they're alluded to in a lot of old articles. And I've looked at some of those old articles at this point, and some of them seem to say that Rawson thought it was 4,000 years old or maybe 6,000 years old, somewhere. I've seen both numbers thrown around. Oh, one of the newspapers I saw in the 20s did an article on this. Now, mind you, this was 20 years after his death. So if he was kind of a crazy kook guy, you would think that 20 years after his death they would. Anyways, they called him, they have respect for him in this article, and they said that he was the translator of the Moabite stone. So I don't know what that means. That may have been some other project he was working on, but it's the point is like you could tell they had respect for him and that he was somebody that whose word that they trusted as an archaeologist. And but today Wikipedia and the Smithsonian sort of paints him like a quack. So that seems to be a more modern invention. I think this guy was actually respected, and I just really want to put that on the table. I think that deserves a spot on the table. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, anything is possible. I mean, like I said, I mean, I have seen the Stones not long ago. This was maybe about 3 years ago. Yeah, about 3 years ago. My friend Nathan and John Galley, they were the ones who stumbled upon a piece of
Hmm.
the wall, and they actually donated pieces of it to the museum center at Five Points here in Cleveland. Um, I mean, I believe the man knew his stuff.
Is that on display?
Yeah.
Hmm.
You can I did a video. Well, this was my haunt season series, but there is an interesting story behind the Chatata wall. When my friends donated the pieces to the museum center of Five Points, anything electrical that they put around it would die. Like, and I want to say that
Whoa.
like when they brought those stones in, like I said, I don't think it killed the power to the building, but it's like any electrical devices that were next to it, they would basically the batteries would or they would drain out. They
Yeah.
would die. Um,
Are these the guys from Adventures United?
yep.
This
Nathan
is
and
you blew my mind at the start of this with when you said that because I've been trying to get in touch with those guys because I've been looking into this and there's only a few things on YouTube. Credits for you for having one of those videos up, but these guys have some clips up of them talking about it.
yep,
So I looked into Adventures United, or I think they called it AU Investigations. I had
yep,
no idea that you knew those guys. That's
yeah. I
crazy.
mean, yeah, like I was saying, I mean, if you look at the older videos that we did, I was a member of the team, but I won't get into it. I mean, but we did have a bit of a falling out back there for a little while. I mean, that was years ago. We've
Hmm.
since then patched things up, but
Hmm.
yeah, I know Nathan has removed some of his videos.
Well, I had a hard time finding some of this stuff. In one of those clips, they talk about how it's Terry Carter who
Yep, Terry.
I need to get him on the show. People are telling me that to get him on, and I've seen some of his stuff at some point. But he somehow ends up at the same place as these guys, Nathan and the other fella, and he gets them in a 7 minute clip, or maybe it's longer. I don't know, maybe a 15 minute
Yep,
clip talking about this, and they're talking about how they've rediscovered this wall in 2018, I think it was, and that they were
2018.
planning on doing a documentary on it. I wasn't able to find that.
Okay, that's an actually interesting story because like I said, I was the same as you. I was waiting for them to put it out. From what I understood, like this was back when I lived in Florida, and they came back or they were coming up from it was a 1715 fleet, not really a convention, but a conference
Is it
for
pirate
black.
like treasure conference or something?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
nice.
anyway, they had come up and visited me, but they were saying that the family who owns it, I want to say that they have a. It's just like they don't want it to be thrown into the spotlight or something like that.
The
Um,
documentary or
like this, like the
the stone?
location of it. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
I want to say that's. I do know that they had a GoFundMe there for a while, to gather money to make said documentary. But
Hmm.
I mean, it's like when you have creative endeavors like that, it can be extremely hard. Um, like one example on my end, yes,
I was just uh curious slash worried that maybe they weren't allowed to put the documentary out or something because I've seen how other people who find similar findings are treated. I'll just
yeah.
leave it like that.
I mean, similar to my video that I did on the Egyptian temple or supposed ancient temple. I put that out thinking, oh hey, this is kind of cool. I like this. But no, every troll and their grandma came to bop me over the head. And I'm like, you know what? That's one of the few videos that I will not reply to anyone on.
Hmm.
Like there are a few people that I've responded to, and that's a handful.
People
But
think they know the truth about this stuff, and that's why, I mean, you don't have to say this. This is Tim speaking, not Chet, but I see the way these matters are treated on Wikipedia. I know where that narrative's coming from, and that's why I choose to just say it how it is. And it's a Smithsonian narrative, and let me just say this: I'm not trying to be one of these guys that just hates on them all the time. I was never I never saw myself getting into this. 2 or 3 years ago, I thought that they were just the good old museum people. Didn't know anything was going on. I never thought I'd be like, oh, the Smithsonian has the bones. I never thought I'd be that guy. So I'm not
yep,
trying to be that guy. But at the same time, I've researched this, and anybody who does, it doesn't take long to kind of see what's going on here, in my opinion, or at least to see, I'll be fair here, to see that there's two sides, there's two ways of looking at it, and that there's,
yep,
possibly a cover up involved. I'm going to show you something real quick because I saved a picture. Some of the old, see, this is my point right here. Some of the old newspaper articles tell a different story about this.
yep,
So here's one, Chattanooga Times, 1920. And like I said before, it was in these papers from the 20s where I began to see how they had respect for A.L. Rawson, as whereas Wikipedia sort of paints him as like a wacko spiritualist. Um, and I don't even know what his religious beliefs are. I don't think they necessarily matter in this case. So, but anyway, as you could see, they were calling it potentially the Lost Tribes of Israel in the paper. And here, just to give people an idea of what this looks like, here's a diagram of some of the pieces of the wall found.
yep.
got the writing there. Um, so there's that. And also, I've got to show this. This is another illustration. I think this was done by Rawson himself,
Yep.
um, where you can see the script goes up. It's kind of written sideways. And it's very interesting that these figures are here too. They found these near the wall.
Hmm.
So I'm going to come back to that, man, because I got something to talk to you about with this. Because on a side investigation I've done, I've also found evidence that these little figures like this were found near Hawassi. So this is the only time I've seen this. So when I found this was associated with this case, I was like, oh, that's interesting. They must have been finding a lot of these little guys out there. And it says here, archaeologists declare that the wall has been buried there for a period of about 4,000 years, that its inscriptions of religious and historical nature written by the scribes of a race then at war and about to become extinct.
Yep.
That's wild.
Yep.
So that would suggest that maybe whoever wrote this Hebrew script, Paleo Hebrew script, was worried about they were having an existential moment. They thought that they were about to be wiped out.
Yep.
And just one more note on this. Well, I got the pictures pulled up. Here's another picture from one of the articles from the Chattanooga Times. This is a better picture of a close up of some of the writing that was there. I just wanted to show that because the story that I've heard and the story that the Adventures United guys were telling on the internet was that people got, when this was found, there was a big buzz about it.
Yep.
People were really excited about this. The script here, they were like, oh, this is definitely a language. I think A.L. Rawson got real excited and sent something off to the Smithsonian, got them involved. The Smithsonian sent somebody out, and they basically denied this whole thing. They said that this was worms or terrestrial mollusks or some sort of
Or a geological feature
yeah.
or natural
So,
around that.
mm-hmm. So I don't, they, that seems to bring about a major shift in this situation when the Smithsonian got involved. They said it wasn't deliberate writing. I saw some evidence that they also were like thinking maybe it was a hoax as well. Basically, it got the stamp of denial. And the story that I've heard from the AU guys is that back then, people really, really trusted the Smithsonian, and it put a damper on the situation. And I think the farmer ended up, to protect it
Re-
from looting, reburied the wall. And
Yep.
then over time, it became a legend. Like, oh yeah, that's what they say about this place, but there was no wall. I'm just so fascinated by this. Oh, here's one more I'll show everybody. This is A.L. Rawson, who got his birth date here, his death date, his location of his burial, and his grave plot, just so people know he's a real guy.
Yep.
So, man, I think this story is just huge, man. I really do.
I think so too. That's one of the things I wish, like the owners of the property, whether you believe it, whether people believe it to be, a natural formation or, created by, a tribe that was dying out. I still think, it'd be really nice to have like a Tennessee historical marker, because there is like a generalized location that if you know where to look for, you can find it. Um, or at least so. If you look at like by descriptions, what it says in books, one of the things that I learned a lot about was again Weird Tennessee. That was one of my books that I read that had that on there. But speaking of those statuettes or figurines, there are similar figurines at gosh, the McClung Museum in Knoxville. Um, anyway, they look very similar. You
Yeah.
know, actually, speaking of statues and stuff, this is more archaeological, but have you ever heard of the big statues that they found in? I want to say it was I want to say it was near Lebanon, Tennessee, but it was a series of mounds in that area. But there are these big statues that stand about this tall. Um,
Well,
McClung Muse, huh?
oh yeah. Go ahead. I thought you're done
Oh,
there.
but
No, this is
McClung,
interesting.
but the statues they're actually, if you look at it, it's Tennessee's state artifact. But
Mm,
there are two big figures statues at McClung Museum, and I want to
hmm.
say that I want to say the other two reside in the Tennessee State Museum in Nashville.
Okay.
I want to
Yeah,
say
so I'm aware of other statues being found. Most of the ones I'm aware of those are those little small ones, and they're all associated with Chickamauga Lake today. A lot of the stuff is under Chickamauga Lake where this was found, the ancient settlements and cities and such. But Rick Osman was telling me about a 20-foot canine statue that was found somewhere in Tennessee.
yes, I know that story.
Do
Um,
you?
I did a video on that. I think I want to say it was like two summers ago,
Yeah.
3 summers ago. But what had happened? Well, this was while again from the Book of
I'm
Weird
excited to
Tennessee.
watch this one, man, because I want to know more about this.
But yeah, you can find it. Said I, it's like, but what had happened? It was this big dog statue, and there was the railroad that was coming through that
Yeah.
area. And anyway, when they got to this statue, they did not know what to do with it, so they blew it up.
Well,
And
it was yeah. I'll give you my Tim um opinion of that. That was John Wesley Powell ran the railroad through there, and he wanted it gone. So
but uh, but yeah, I mean, there's a big stone of it that is in their park. I want to say I can't remember what it's like I can remember the story. I just can't remember the names of
mhm.
the places. But anyway, it was I don't know. It's like a piece of archaeology that could have shed light,
Oh yeah.
thousands of years, but no, it was blown up in a matter of seconds
Oh
because of
yeah.
progress,
Well,
as
yeah.
they say.
As they say, I know it's there's a little bit more to it, but people can go watch my other videos on that. I don't want to drag you into a a conspiracy show of some sort here, but I mean, just look at this writing here. I mean, I just that just the fact that alone that got pushed off as something natural. I don't think it's right. And like I said, man, I'm not trying to be subversive to the government institutions, but I found out a lot in my research. And
Yeah,
I mean, they paint this stuff perfectly in that government's favor
yep,
online right now. So there's some,
exactly.
and I mean, I'll remind people like recently, let's not forget what the NPR CEO, Catherine Marr said. She said at like a TED Talk setting that the Wikipedians who write the articles aren't looking for the truth. They're looking for something more attainable. That's
Yep,
a direct quote. So it's about truth to some of these people in power. It's not about truth. It's about consensus rather.
yep,
So ultimately, I think the Smithsonian killed interest in this site, and it became legend and myth until these guys in 2018 that found it. I just think that's man. I'm so glad that we got to talk about that on here today,
yeah.
because
I mean, oh, go ahead.
no, I had to like when I saw your video on this, I'm like, oh, I got to talk to this guy. And I get the added bonus of hearing about a lot of other cool stuff having you here today, too, man, because I had no idea you were a paranormal investigator. That's wild. Before we move off of this, there's one other thing I'm going to mention here. I found this in one of the articles that I showed here. It was in, actually, I still have it up. So, yeah, it was a part of this article here in the Chattanooga Times, and I pulled the quote. They had another historian that they talked to for this article. His name was Hale Merritt, and he said, um, over the land that now constitutes Tennessee, long before white men set foot upon it, there dwelt a numerous people, unknown and unnamed. They buried their mounds and wrought their works in metal. History for them is an unwritten page. History is an unwritten page. So I'm trying to change that. God help me.
Yep. I mean, that's all you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that's kind of why I do the lesser known history. It's like
Yeah.
because it's like if if people are just going to think about okay, that actually kind of delves back into my beginnings, like Cleveland, Tennessee, Bradley County. You would always hear like my generation and around my dad's generation, they would always say, "Oh, there's nothing here. It's nothing anything important." But then you realize, oh wait, during the Civil War, there were two forts or two earthen forts on the cemetery on Fort or that became Fort Hill Cemetery. That's not. Eh, eh.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I mean, or the Chatata Wall. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like people just want to, it's
Those
like
old
the
forts are something else.
yep. I mean, it's I don't know, but going back, it's like well, actually, there's a tale that I could tell you. I mean, but it's more on the terms of or on the grounds of cryptids.
Yeah, if
Um,
you want to, we can go ahead and talk about that too, man. Whatever you want to talk about. I definitely wanted to pick your brain on this lost history of Tennessee stuff, but let's go wherever you want to go, man.
all right, sorry. I mean, I'm a cluster fudge of
You're good.
knowledge. It happens. Um, but if what was I going to talk about? Oh yes. Anyway,
Well, we were talking about stone walls, and then you said you had a
oh
story about cryptids, maybe?
okay. I mean, it piggybacks off like stuff that you would not think about unless if you did your research. But this happened in the winter of '82, I believe it was. There was a man, and this man and this woman, he was having an affair with this woman. I want to say that the woman was married, as the story goes, but they're driving down this paved road called Sugar Flat Road. Sugar Flat
Yeah,
Road.
there it is.
Anyway, at the time, I imagine in the '80s, it probably wasn't paved,
Mm-hmm.
but as this guy is trying to get her home so her husband doesn't find out what she was doing with this guy, they hit what they think to be a man. And this guy, he gets out, he sees this, whatever this thing is, it's covered in hair. It looks like an ape. He freaks out. He just pushes it in the ditch and he drops her off or back at her home. But anyway, he's sitting there in his house. He's drinking himself sober. He cannot get over the fact that he thinks he may have killed somebody. So he drives back to where he left this body. It's still there, and what he does is he chops the head off with a shovel, and he buries the body. Well, he got the head taxidermied, and you can look it up, but it's called the Creature of Sugar Flat Road Head. And
What?
yeah, I mean it's a thing.
Okay.
I mean, Sugar Flat Road Monster Head,
I'll see
and
if
it's
I can
a
find it while you're talking.
but speaking about or history that doesn't always seems to get overlooked. I mean, that's one of one second.
Where's this displayed at? Or
Uh,
who has it?
well, it is owned by a private. It is owned by a family, but every so often they will for Halloween they will put it on display at the courthouse in Lebanon. That that's it. That is the Sugar
Oh
Flat
my
Road
goodness.
monster head. I mean,
So when was this said to have taken place? Where this guy
that
hit this thing?
about the 1980s was around as the story goes, but yeah, I mean, wait, is it okay?
So they've got it blocked out on some of these pictures, I guess, because it looks too real or something. I don't know.
Like I said, I mean, it looks like if that's if you want to talk about like Bigfoot or Sasquatch or anything like that, look at this story. It's like you know big those Bigfoot shows on Travel Channel. It's like why don't they talk about this piece?
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, but to go back on the main topic of what.
That's interesting, man. Yeah. I'll stop. I mean, the Google was glitching out on me there. I wasn't able to get off that page. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yep,
Um Back Creek Stone is
you brought up
another.
Pandora's box.
We did. Yeah. We not a cryptid per se, but the Back Creek Stone is one that came to mind
Yep,
as
Back Creek
well
Stone.
when you were talking about Hebrew being found in Tennessee. That's out. Back Creek is now underneath, I believe it's Tellico Lake.
Ac-
Uh-oh, I think you froze.
let me piggyback off what you said just there.
Yes.
There is okay. I wanted to make a video on the Back Creek Stone. Like what is now an island that is still there where they found it. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
like it's still there, but
Mm-hmm.
but anyway, to go back to what you were saying or what
Well, so they put in is it Tellico Lake or Norris where the Back Creek Stone was?
yeah,
Yeah, so what they put in Tellico Lake, and a lot of it's submerged, but there is still a little top of an island poking out, right where that was. You could
yep,
see it from the highway there,
yep,
outside of Rose. No, there's a Rose Island down there too. That's what I'm thinking of. But I
yep,
talked to there's another guy I've had on the show. His dad's speaking of cryptids. His dad's Bigfoot research area was right there along the banks of the Tellico Lake. And I mean, you might know where that's at too. There's a graveyard there. It was
yep.
Scott Carpenter. Do you know him or remember him?
Scott Carpenter. Like, are you talking about that?
He was a
Because I know
big
that there's
Bigfoot researcher in that area, and his son Travis has been on, and we got to talking about that Tellico Lake area. And so what you have here is you have all this crazy history, like the Back Creek Stone that nobody talks about, and crazy off the charts paranormal cryptid stuff happening.
yep.
Back
There
Creek
for
Stone, Paleo Hebrew, same sort of thing there. They had it on display at the Smithsonian, had it on display upside down. They were telling everybody it was Paleo Cherokee because that Chota is underneath Tellico Lake.
yep.
Chota, the ancient Cherokee city, is down there. So they had it on display as Paleo Cherokee. A guy came in and said, no, that's Paleo Hebrew. Flipped it around and said, see, it's Hebrew. You can read it perfectly in Hebrew. And then after that, it was taken off of display, and it's not really talked about anymore. But I don't think it's a coincidence at this point that we've got that Back Creek Stone and that Chatata wall with Hebrew on it. There's something going on with that for sure. And even up in Ohio, they've got the Hanukkah Man.
Yep.
Hanukkah Man,
I
is
think
that what it
that's
was
it.
called? Uh, yeah, it was a big menorah lamp spread out over 20 acres. From an aerial view, it looked like a Hebrew lamp. And they had the Army Corps of Engineers go in, I believe it was the 20s, and they took that out. They totally leveled the whole mountain site. It was
Whatever.
Hebrew, had to have been.
I mean, whatever they got to do to protect their narrative, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's a first on my end about that one. You know, and
You
it's
could still
crazy.
see that one on YouTube too, man. Or not YouTube, Wikipedia. You can Wikipedia Hanukkah Mound. It'll show up. There's still a picture of it and everything. I'm sorry, you were saying?
Oh no, I mean, like I was saying, I mean, it's like there's a lot of stuff out there that but following the like kind of like the Metcalf stone. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's another one, kind of what we were talking about.
Yeah, yeah. Should I pull
Um,
that up? How do you spell that?
Metcalf, it is 1 second, because that's another weird inscribed. 1 second, let me. Okay, you are going. It's MET calf, like CALF,
Mm-hmm.
Metcalf stone, and it's got you'll see in there. You'll see like all these different translation of the Metcalf stone. It's got like arrow, comet, came, went. There we go. That's it.
While looking for stones to make a barbecue pit in 1966. Yeah, it's funny. I'm going to pause here and say something. That sounds a whole lot like the Hooper situation because Hooper was out on his farm and he was looking for stones, I think, when he found the top of that Chatata wall. So it's funny.
Yep.
But Manfred Metcalf here, he picks up a slab of sandstone about 230 square at Fort Benning near his home in Chattanooga County, Georgia. It carries an inscription that Cyrus Gordon examined. It's Cyrus Gordon is the man who actually also transcribed the Back Creek Stone.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. Hmm. Gordon was the one who recognized that it was not, in fact, Paleo or Cherokee or Paleo Cherokee. He said, turn it upside down. It's perfect. Well, it's old Paleo Hebrew, and part of the Back Creek Stone was really
Gotta
the
love technology.
website kicked me off there. I'll try to get it again while we're talking here. Um, Yeah, he said, like I said, I've told the story, but you flipped it upside down. He's like, yeah, it's Hebrew. So that was Cyrus Gordon. Man, I really wanted to, because I don't know about this. So let's see if I can try this again. All right, here we go. Okay. Cyrus Gordon examined it after being sent a cast of the object in 1968 by Joseph Mahan of the Institute for the Study of American Cultures. Let's see here. He thought it might be an inventory using a form of the Minoan linear A script that was developed towards true alphabetic script, the origin of the classic Greek alphabet. So the Minoans, that's another group who I think were over here at some point. Yeah. Um, oh, that's interesting. He linked it with the Yuchi Indians, claiming that according to their oral history, they originated in the Mediterranean region and suggested that it was of Canaanite style. All right. A professor of Northwest Semitic languages at the University College of LA also identified the script as a version of Linear A. So Canaanite Minoan, possibly. How about that?
Yep.
And that's the thing. I think we read that just in time. Maybe they won't kick me off this time, but that's the thing. I've showed it on here many times. There's that. I think it's about 3,200 or 3,400-year-old Canaanite shipwreck that was found recently. Anybody can look that up. Um, they had the means to be over here,
Yep.
and if you start looking into the copper mines up in Michigan on the Great Lakes, there's a lot of evidence of the Phoenicians being there mining that copper way before Columbus.
Yep.
So there are several things worth. Okay, yeah, man, this is interesting. I appreciate you bringing this to my attention. How
Oh,
about
no
that?
problem.
How about that? Um, Yeah, so I mean, one of the things that I found is like a whole new narrative on this was brought in, and I can do this kind of without pointing the finger too hard at the Smithsonian. It kind of goes back to a group of people, like a small group of people in the government who brought in a narrative change, and that would be John Wesley Powell, Lewis Henry Morgan, and Cyrus Thomas. So there's two
Yep.
Cyruses. Cyrus Gordon is a guy who we talk. Cyrus Thomas is a guy who worked for the Smithsonian. So, um, and if people want to know why I feel the way I feel, if you look at Powell's 1880 report to the Secretary of the Smithsonian on page 73, he lays out how the Native Americans were uncultured and savage and lacked higher intellect. And he also talks about how um, anything, they wouldn't date things earlier than Columbus or
That
connect it to
sound
the rest of the world. So if anything was found over here, like the objects, like the Chatata wall, that points to there being intelligent people over here who may not have just been Native Americans. And so because that's before Columbus, that's not in the narrative. We can't have that. That's the whole thing with this stuff. Um, yeah,
I
that's
was just gonna say that's very one-sided and stupid. I mean, it's like if you think, I mean, look at it. I mean, it's like the Cherokee Nation. I mean, they were the Cherokee Nation. It's like how people survived in what the Appalachian Mountains. They got a lot of their survival from them. Especially a lot of their government practices. Or at least I want to say that's from what I can remember anyway. But or it's like the mound builders. These monolithic creations like the closest where we're at is the Etowah Indian Mounds, and I want to say that they are either the second or third largest mounds in the United States. Like they are huge. But I don't know. So if you look at that, I mean, the guy kind of sounded like an idiot. But
mm,
but
yeah. The Cherokee were smart. Just to comment on something you were saying there, I think that they were very intelligent. I think a lot of the Cherokee were extremely high IQ. They were farmers. I think they knew how, like super farmers. I think they were like agricultural geniuses. They knew how to work the land. This DeSoto talked about that when he got the more into the interior of the country and Tennessee that he got. Um, he talked about how much of a paradise it was when he got into Tennessee, into the area where you live. Um, he was talking about how it was a paradise. Like there were fields of wheat and corn, and the Cherokee would treat them right. They were very hospitable to him and his men. They fed them, they fed their horses, and DeSoto ended up staying there for a couple of weeks or maybe even longer because he liked it so much. They knew how to work the land. They had a good thing going, and they had these cities. I've heard people point to there being that some of their cities had paved streets. They had some method of being able to pave the street, and they were using mud in a type of way that resembles concrete. They knew how to make these old it's an old Middle Eastern practice, I think, because I've seen it
yep,
in Yemen. They know how to take mud and clay and use it as a concrete and build up buildings, like several stories and all that. So whole amazing lost history here in
yep,
Tennessee. But yeah, to your point, I think that the Cherokee were very intelligent.
yep.
One thing that I wanted to hit you back about here was just the whole occult artifact collection that you talked about. That may have been before the show. You said you were going to visit an occult artifact collection.
Oh yes, the uh if you want to be yeah, that okay. If you've heard the story of Ed Lorraine Warren throughout their their careers, they collected what they called cursed items, items that had an attachment to them or a demon attached to them, a very negative spirit, or old like voodoo dolls with a lot of negative connotation or a lot of negativity attached to them. And how they put it, it's like they're taking weapons and guns off the streets. Um, but I want to say Ed Warren, he died in the early 2000s. I want to say Lorraine died or passed away actually at the age of like 91, 92 in 2019. But anyway, their collection, well, their home was their museum, but due to how zoning is in their state, I think I want to say it's Connecticut. I can't quite remember, but anyway, um, it's just like you cannot run a museum out there from inside your home. Was their thing, or was I guess the city or state or however their government runs. But anyway, since the family who currently manages it is Tony Spera and his wife Judy. Judy was Lorraine's daughter. Um, but anyway, as of right now, their actual home that has been purchased, and the artifacts they're on a 5 year lease, from what I understand. But these artifacts, probably namely being the Annabelle doll,
Mm.
um, or the satanic effigy that was found in the woods of Sandy Hook, Connecticut. Um, they had a skull that had been, or that basically had been used in satanic rituals, an actual human skull. Um, what else did they have that was absolutely fascinating that they had?
Is this
Um,
the house that you said may have been associated with a portal?
oh no, no, this is a that that's a totally different story. That is Melissa Heiberger's home, but how that whole connection was made um, was when or Ed and Lorraine were doing a free lecture at Cleveland State Community College back in the 70s. But they stayed in touch with them. But that house, there is at least three generations of people living in that home with something happening.
Mm.
Like, and when I say portal, it's like some portals can vary. One of them that or the portal that was on their property, it was almost like a lapse in time, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like one example when it was Melissa's mother and Lynn, Lynn Heiberger had a friend over for coffee. Well, anyway, Lynn's sitting in the kitchen making her coffee for her friend. Well, her friend hears somebody pull into the driveway. Well, she said, "Well, Lynn, are you not going to come to the door? You've got company." And she's like, she just kind of smiles and just goes back to doing things. And her friend hears people getting out of the car, what sounds like people getting out of the car. And she's like, she wants to be respectful. So she gets up, walks, opens the door, and there's nothing there.
Mm.
So anyway, it's like lapses in time. I guess that would be. There was a lot of shadow figure activity, and why I'm so adamant that it came with the land is because, like the the Heiberger's house was the only house, one of like maybe two houses in that neighborhood, and there was a third one that was being built, and Melissa and her sisters they would play in that building. Well, they came to know the family who lived in that house, but the interesting thing that happened is when the husband died, the family fled that house because the activity was too much. And I guess my tie into it is my best friend lived in the exact same house. Talk about total irony, 30 something years apart, but they lived in that house, and they had activity as well. And whatever was in that house, from what my friend told me, it sounded like something dark, but it would talk to him through the vents, like from a lot of where this activity, what
Oh, it's just like, wow.
a lot of the this activity seemed to focus in the basement or basement garage area. And I can confirm that because it's like the moment that you would go into that room or the basement area, it dropped to freezing temperatures. Like you could see your breath. And this was like late springtime. This was before, this was before the summer, but you shouldn't be able to do that.
Right.
And from what I remember, we were sitting at the kitchen table, and whatever this entity was, you could hear the door handle jiggle from the basement. And want to say that probably what my best friend said when that happened. But
Were
that's
you
another.
did you get to go in the house when your friend lived there and
Yeah,
experience some of this?
yep. That's some of
Wow.
the stuff that I saw was the door handle jiggling, and when I went into the basement.
Now, was this sort of before or after you got into investigating the paranormal?
This was way before I got into investigating paranormal. What got my interest within paranormal, ghosts, what have you, is my mom and her family. They lived in a haunted house, and interestingly, the ghost who inhabited the house, he wasn't evil, but what had happened is before, I want to say that my mom and my family or her family, they were the second owners of the house, but previous owner, whose name was Mr. Gates, he was going down to see some family in Florida, going down Dalton Pike, and he wrecked, and well, he died in the wreck. And anyway, that's one of the things that the widow told my grandparents as they were signing all the paperwork and stuff. But Mr. Gates, he would leave your my family were very adamant that they locked the door to the house every time that they would come back from church or come back from somewhere. The door would always be unlocked, and there would be ice cream melting on the table. That apparently happened a lot. And one instance, my papaw, he worked. He was an electrician for an electrical company. Anyway, one night he was just sitting watching TV, and the rocker that was sitting beside it started moving back and forth on
Mm.
its own. Um,
That's why you don't get rocking chairs, folks.
yeah,
Or you do if you want to know if something's around.
but I guess so. Long story short, that's kind of like that's what got me interested is just hearing stories about what it was like as my family lived in a haunted house.
Yeah. Oh man, I've been there. I know all of that. Been through it. And I use the terminology haunted house too. Just the best I got, I guess. I don't know. I didn't see like Casper the Friendly Ghost apparitions. I don't know what people. I know people who don't have this sort of a haven't had this experience. I don't know how they sort of visualize it. I imagine people think that there's ghosts or like a woman in white and all that. I didn't see that sort of thing on the property I lived on. It was more of this sort of trickster type stuff and a lot of sounds. And um, I did see a spirit at one point, but it wasn't like anything I just mentioned. But there was a lot of running up and down the steps at night,
Oof.
stomping, like little, it
Yep.
sounded like a bunch of little kids running up and down the steps almost.
Yep.
It was loud though, like the thump. I know it's so freaky. The thumps were, um, it wasn't like grown man thumps. It was like kids if they were to stomp up and down steps, is what it sounded like. And my dad would often sleep this, so I was in middle school, still living with my parents, obviously. My dad would sleep downstairs in this what we call the sunroom, and the sunroom had a weird folding door. It was two doors that you fold out,
Yep.
and it had like panes of glass in there that were anyway, you could hear that all out. Like anytime anybody left that room, you could hear them opening those doors because they squeaked and made a sound when they
Ugh,
opened. So
no,
so anyway,
no.
like I'm hearing the stomping one night up and down the steps. I'm upstairs in my bedroom. So I get up. It was loud, louder than normal this night. So I got up and I went and checked on my brother, looked in his room. I could see him asleep in bed, shut the door, went across the hall to my mom's room, opened the door. She's in there asleep in bed. So I'm like, okay, it's not them. I'm like, I don't think it's my dad because I would have heard him open up that squeaky door down there. But I go down anyway. And this is a stairwell that has a bend in it. So it's like it's even
No.
creepier just because of the bend, And
Yep.
I go down there, and sure enough, my dad's got the study door closed. I'm like, oh, it wasn't him. I was like, it's this poltergeist thing. I didn't have that word for it at the time, but now that's what I'm calling it. But my dad had the light on in there, I could see. So I opened up. I'm like, hey, I don't know why I asked him this, but I was like, was that you? Or I asked him, did you hear that? I think he's like, yeah. I was like, but it wasn't you. He's like, no. He's like, I thought it was you. Said that to me. And that's what woke me up. So he was awake and had the light on and was reading because it woke him up. So that was a big moment because I knew it wasn't just in my head. Like other people were hearing this. So that's just one story. So I get it, man. It's
Yep.
crazy. Poltergeisty stuff.
Hey, to talk about poltergeist stuff, this happened when, well, this happened when I was like 6 years old. I mean, to this day, it is still burned in my brain, and I still remember it. Again, maybe it's an interesting thing too. Why, I'm interested. Like, I guess what got me into this weird field, if you will. But my family, we lived at a home on Single Tree Drive in Cleveland, and this was in the basement area, or the basement area going into the garage. Well, one day while my parents were upstairs, I was the only one in the basement area. The door to the garage door handle jiggle, like, flips itself open, and the door flings itself up. Like, I mean, it does it at full force. I watch this, I freak out. Mind you, this is the brain of a 6 year old as all this is happening. Anyway, I watch as the door slams itself shut again. I'm bought my, like, I don't know what to think about. And then door handle opens, flings itself open. And I remember being the kid that I was, I yelled at it to stop.
Hmm.
And this entity, I mean, it hit it at full force, and I ran upstairs to my parents, and I did not go down there the whole night. Um, that has happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I mean, it's like weird stuff. I mean, if there was actually there
I
is
had
a
the faucets turn on me once too. Just want to sprinkle that in there. Like my parents were, well, yeah, man, it was really weird. It was, I was at the age, I was probably 14 or 15, but I was pretty responsible. So my parents would leave me at home. They would go do stuff, and my brother was real young too, so they would take him. So I was often at this house by myself a lot, and we had two upstairs bathrooms, and you know my parents had left, and the sun had just gone down. It was like 10 minutes after sundown. With this it kind of reminded me of what you said earlier in the show where you talked about those guys were like, we don't go back there after 6 o'clock or something. It's that
yep,
sort of a thing.
yep.
Exactly. When the sun goes down, the activity starts popping off. But yeah, the sun had just gone down, and both the faucets in both the upstairs bathrooms were on. So I mustered up the courage to
No,
go all the way into my mom's
uh,
bathroom, and the faucet's running full blast. I turned it off, went and turned off the faucet in mine and my brother's bathroom, and I went downstairs as fast as I could, grabbed the phone, and went outside, and I just stayed on the porch and talked to my friends on the phone because I didn't want to be in there. Wait till my parents got home.
one second. Let me. Is there like any way I can send you a? I mean, this is probably the most since we're on the topic of ghosts, there is a photo that like this is in my book Ghosts and Mysteries of St. Augustine. If you look up ghost photos, St. Augustine, well, I mean, there's a crap ton of them. Just trying to figure out, is there a way I can send you a photo via Zoom?
Hmm. Or do you have it up on your computer right now? You should have an option down in the bottom to share.
One second. Let me go on here. Anyway, this photo, as I was saying, or wait, can you still see me?
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. Um, this photo was taken at Ghost Augustine, the paranormal tour that or the ghost tour company I used to work for. And let me see. I do have it. So let me see. Do I need to email it to you, or if there's a way to?
Yeah, you can just email it to me real quick if you want, and I'll pull it up through
Okay.
email.
Anyway, since we're on the topic of ghosts, one second. This one photo, it's not altered whatsoever. It was taken at the Huguenot Cemetery, which is probably one of the most haunted cemeteries in St. Augustine. Okay, let me hit.
That's interesting because I think St. Augustine is one of the oldest towns in America. They say it's the
Yep,
oldest town.
oldest continuously inhabited city in. One second, browse.
Yeah.
One of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in the U.S. And now, if since we're talking about Native American or old cultures and stuff, they say that the reason why St. Augustine is as haunted as it is because the Timucua Indians. I mean, because they say that they put a curse on the land, like when Spain was moving in and they were converting it into their second.
Yeah. Those Indians, yeah.
Anyway, that's another interesting.
I think I'm very fascinated with that tribe. And I've shown pictures of them on here before. There was a guy who came over here and was drawing sketches of the Temecula's, and they appeared to be giants. Some of them appeared to be very
Yep,
tall, very
yep,
big. And I think it was a French colony that settled St. Augustine in the first place.
yep. Fort. I think it was Fort Charlotte. I think.
And they had been either staying with or staying right next to the Temecula's. And they left in the middle of the night because they were getting so freaked out by the Temecula's and their practices.
Yep.
So, and
Oh,
that's when they went and started staying, or founded St. Augustine or founded that land. So, I'm very fascinated with that story, and also you've got the Rockefeller.
yep.
Uh, sorry, I just got a thing pop up on my
Oh, that
computer.
was one of them is the stones on or part of the Chatata wall on display,
Oh, okay. Here, I'll find it.
and this, like I said, this photo that it will make a believer out of you. There's nothing like you get that kind of stuff all the time in St. Augustine.
Mm-hmm. So, did you send it to?
Oh, I sent it to your Gmail
Okay,
or that, not the link that you sent me, but
okay.
the
All right. Let me see if I can access that account on here.
like I said, I was wondering
Uh,
if there's like a way to share a photo
I
via
mean, you
Zoom.
can share it on here if you have it on your computer. You can share screen.
One second.
So that email account
Let
is
me
on
see if I
my
can.
other.
Maybe I can do this. Let me. I think I. I mean, I've got. Want to put it to the chat. One second.
Actually, hold on a second. Now I have it. We're in business. I'm pulling it up now. There we go. This is the ghost picture. I see it. It looks like an apparition of a little kid, almost.
Well, Bring it up to the far left. Or like, oh, there we
Oh, I
go.
see it. Oh, I see the face.
Yep,
Okay.
that's they say that's Judge John Stickney.
Oh my goodness, this computer, dude. I think the spooks and the entities are in the computer tonight.
I guess so. But yeah, that there's two of the stones on display
Oh, I
that were
see
at
it
the.
now. Okay. Sorry, I jumped back to the ghost picture on you, but I see it now.
Yep.
And there's a face right there. Yeah, that's creepy.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, that kind of stuff happens with Ghost Augustine all the time.
That's very clearly a face. I can't tell if it's it looks like it maybe has his eyes closed or man, this I think the ghost jumped right into my computer. I'm serious. Because
I mean, well,
it keeps messing with the let me just do it like this. Never mind, bro. All right, we'll just cut to the other. I can't believe that that's being so difficult. Um, you wanted to show me these stones. Okay.
yeah, that are on display at the museum.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, this was awesome because I had no idea that the Chatata wall, anything from that site was in a museum.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, it's like when Nathan and John when they donated it to the museum, there was a lot of like major electrical issues that happened. I mean, I want to say as the story goes, I believe they wanted to give the stones back to Nathan after what was going on, but I don't know what happened. But yeah, I mean, they're two stones from the wall that are in the museum.
Chet, do you know if they made a documentary and just didn't put it out or what?
That part I don't know. Because there was a group of people that wanted to make a documentary on it. I mean, they hounded me to no end on my Dream Poet page, and I couldn't really tell them anything because what, or at least what I feel, it wasn't my. I knew where it was and I knew the stories that was coming in and out, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like there's logistical paperwork and red tape and everything.
Okay. I didn't mean to play that on you, but I'll play this in just a second. Um, so are you saying though that people saw your video on this and try to get in touch with you and were like super
Oh
aggressive
yeah,
about it or
I mean,
something?
what I made on mine, I mean, I went through and I asked Nathan if it was okay, and he was like, "Yeah, it's all right." But yeah, when I made my video on it, that's how people were trying to get in touch with me over it, and it's like I said, I mean, there's just a lot of potential there, and I'm surprised that Nathan and John aren't like branching out to really get well. Then again, I mean, you've got stuff that that could be going on behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, who knows, man? I know that I know a lot of people in this space now, and I know some people who are looking into the temple, the Egyptian stuff in the Grand Canyon,
Yep.
and they've experienced some weird activity, like from I don't know, government people or something like that. There's scare tactics that are being used on people sometimes when it comes to this sort of thing. But here's the the Terry Carter interview. I don't know, should we play this? Give people
Yeah. I mean,
because
it,
these are the guys we're talking about here and what they had to say about it. These are the guys who found it, right?
yep.
Refound it.
Nathan and
All right, I'll just play this a little bit just to give people an idea.
Okay, I'm here in Florida. I ran into two guys, John and Nathan, and they're telling me an interesting story that I heard a little bit. They've been researching it, so I'm excited and they're willing to tell us about it. So first off, tell me your full names, and then also you got a YouTube channel.
Right.
Tell me that so that people can see that.
So I'm Nathan King, this is John Gallagher, and we started AU Expeditions, and it's just a group that goes out and explores off the beaten path places. And a lot of times it's historical is what we're mainly interested in. So
Right up my alley. I'm liking you guys.
Right. A few years ago, we got interested in a project, something called the Chatata Wall, something out of Bradley County, Tennessee, that everyone's been interested in, and they thought it was a legend because it's been missing for over 100 years. But anyways, we got interested, started researching it. We're able to find it in the fall of 2018. But it's the story goes, Mr. J.H. Hooper went out on his property one day and found what he believed to be a grave or a headstone.
So just pausing it for a second. I really wanted to bring this up because of that picture right there. That shows that they did refine the wall and did dig up part of it.
Yep. I mean, it's a thing.
And he started digging down to look and see if he could find a name. And the more he dug down, he was finding strange symbols on this rock. So it intrigued him even more, and he started digging down, and he found what looked like a wall that ended up stretching this whole ridge line out by the Hiwassee River. And this wall had, once again, more inscriptions on it that he thought was strange. So he ended up calling Professor A.L. Rawson, over to look at the wall, and A.L. Rawson, very intrigued by it, ended up starting a whole excavation process. And he got linguists in there, paid him $30,000 in the early 1900s, and they deciphered it to be early Paleo-Hebrew Sanskrit. And so, you know, it was the buzz of the world at the time. If you look at old newspaper articles, people around the world were coming to see this wall. And shortly after, I think within 3 years, Mr. A.L. Rawson passed away. Excavations stopped. Mr. J.H. Hooper, being excited about it, ended up sending part of the wall to the Smithsonian, who within a few weeks discredited it, saying it was just worms going through the rocks, and sent it back. So it kind of turned into a disappointing thing. People, you know, back then they believed the Smithsonian and everything they did. But A.L. Rawson ended up passing away within a few years of the excavation, and people were taking pieces of the wall home. So J.H. Hooper ended up covering it back, and it ended up becoming kind of a legend there in the Bradley County, Tennessee, that region, and was forgotten. And it was I guess when we started looking into it, people acted like it was a myth, and no, it's not out there. But
we had to look into the historical public library in Cleveland.
Yeah, we started there, and within 3 years of searching, you know, researching and going out and looking for it, we finally came across it with the lead of a lady. And she told us she remembered her dad going out at the ridge and where they'd have a picnic at the wall and all that, and was able to point us to the ridge she believed it was at. And so with the word of mouth and the research, we were able to go up and stumble across it.
Okay, so maybe I'll cap it off there. But that gives people an overall idea of a lot of the things that we were talking about earlier. So
Yep.
This is a real story. And you know what's interesting, Chat, is they showed a picture of the newspapers in this. Somebody had a picture of some of the newspapers that I was showing earlier, and it looked like they actually had an actual copy of the newspaper that they had. Man, I gotta find that. I gotta figure out where I can find that.
How, you know, I want to say maybe you could find it. I want to say at I want to say the Cleveland Public Library might have a copy. Or you might be able to look through their historic records building. That might be another place to look as well.
Mm-hmm. Also, before I forget, shout out to Terry Carter. This is from his YouTube page, I do want to give him a shout out because, we're playing his video. So shout out to Terry Carter. I don't know if he ever hears this. I'd love to talk to you someday, man. So, but we're gonna make sure we get to plug your channel as well, Chet. Like you've got some awesome stuff on there pertaining to this ancient history. And I will say one other thing. What interests me a lot about the newspaper aspect of this is it's got that little picture of those little statues. And
Yep.
like I said, on a separate investigation I was doing, I came across a J.H. French Nashville guy who came out there and discovered these little statues, just like that, three of them too. And they thought that they were of mixed origins. Some of them they thought, okay, one was Mongolian, one was African maybe, and anyway, I don't want to like totally mess that whole part up, but they thought they were different cultures that they were sort of indicating were down there kneeling, like as if I don't know, just I'm speculating here, but as if all these people were in Tennessee getting along and maybe even worshiping together. So,
Hmm.
and that was those statues were found. The ones that the J.H. French found, that was down there in that Hiwassee River civilization, which I've heard some wild stuff about that. And I've got another book in the other room where um, they were talking to Native American people about that Hiwassee civilization. And one of the Native American ladies, the elders, she said that on one side of that setup was little white people were living there alongside of the Cherokee. Small, like white pygmy people. And I was like,
Hmm.
whoa. So we may have had a situation over here in Tennessee that is wildly different than what we can even imagine almost.
Yep.
Like a hub of commerce or something.
I mean, it makes me think about. Have you heard of the gosh, what is the Moon-eyed people of Cherokee lore?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it kind of makes me think because they say that be these people that would come out in the middle of the night. And they'd have these really big blue eyes and really white skin.
Mm-hmm.
But there is there is some belief that that may have been an Irish colony. I want to say an Irish colony that had come to America, and because the Cherokee were at war with the Moon-eyed people.
Mm-hmm.
But there are two major artifacts that relate to that. One is this big statue in Murphy, North Carolina, and their museum I think stands about 3 feet tall. And you've also got the mountain that, or not the mountain, but the fort that's out in the middle of the woods that that historians and archaeologists simply cannot pin down who made it.
So,
The Cherokee say it was the Moon-eyed people,
mm-hmm.
but
You
no,
went there, didn't you? I think I saw a video of you there.
yep,
Yeah.
yeah, that's another interesting one.
Yeah, so I saw okay, I did see that video that you put up. You were out there walking around and the wall was there, it's just crumbled.
Yeah, I mean it's like these big pile of rocks that just go on for I forget how many acres it is, but they say
Big.
that was created by the Moon-eyed people.
It's big. Yeah, there's so the account of the Cherokee elder lady talking about the little pygmy white people, that I'm pretty sure is in my book, Myth the Cherokee by James Mooney. And in that book, he also gets accounts from Cherokee people about the Moon-eyed people and that they only came out at night and they were here when the Cherokee got here. And
Hmm.
what the Cherokee were finding was when they got here, they saw that there were these gardens, tended gardens, but there was nobody around. And after a while, they finally realized, oh, it's these little people come out of the ground at night and get their vegetables, and then they go back into the ground. and because they have eyes that are sensitive to sunlight, so that's how they grow their food. And that's one of the accounts I know of about the Moon-eyed people. Fascinating stuff, man.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you've got a lot on that channel to offer people. I want to make sure you get the plug of that before we go today and everything. But, before we wrap it up here, is there anything else that you want to talk about or anything we missed?
I mean, I feel like we've kind of covered
Yeah.
like I said, I mean, if we really sat, it'd probably be like 4 a.m.
Yeah.
by the time once I talk, I don't stop. My brain that's just how I work.
Yeah. Yeah, we covered a lot today. I'm very happy we got to cover the Chatata wall,
Yep.
or however it's really supposed to be pronounced. So, and I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you just hearing me out with some of the things that I brought to the table as well. And I definitely want people to go check out your channel. So tell everybody where they can find you, sir.
Dream Poet, or the YouTube channel Dream Poet. That is my main channel. And also on Dream Poet, you can also find links to my books, Ghosts and Mysteries of Bradley County, Tennessee, Ghosts and Mysteries of the Cherokee National Forest and surrounding areas, and Ghosts and Mysteries of St. Augustine, Florida. But that's where you can find me.
Okay, great. Appreciate your time tonight. Thanks for coming on. As always, break the mold, conquer the realm, and thanks for listening.